Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials or any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com. Thank you.
Okay, so we are into this area. So overall, the thing is, in general, when let us go back, because yesterday we just started. Let us go back to the way we are going to do the things overall. So we have two certifications, AZ-104 and AZ-305. Okay, when you talk about AZ-305, it talks about mostly related to your how related to how the things are going to be done and all that thing. And your 305 talks about more about architect level things, about your planning things and all. Okay, so what we are going to do is that mostly we will brief it around, that we will go through the AZ 305 curriculum in general. We will go through it. We will spend some 3-4 days on it, and then we will get back to 104 and for the hands-on and all those purposes, and we will connect. Overall, the things are common across. Okay, so you are going to do it there in 104. Mostly they will look for how part of that, and 305 will look for what you will do. It's more on what part of that, what you will do in this situation and all that thing. Okay, so it will be focusing on that. Okay, now let us talk about some of the terminologies again, regarding to what, who and how much kind of stuff. There is some relationship when you talk about the terms that we are going to do as well. So there is some relationship, so let us talk about that relationship, uh, and we will base on that. So there are three major things that we will, when your organization think about, from the perspective of migration to cloud, right? So what are the different things, and let us see that. So one thing is, here is your policy. Okay, okay, so policy is about what? Okay, policy is about, this is what. Okay, yeah, what you will do in this situation. Okay, so this is what the policy is, what kind of access you have overall. So this is policy, right? The access policy, different, set of rules kind of. When you talk about the second thing, that is your RBAC. RBAC, we talked about that yesterday, we will talk about it as well. So this will talk about who is going to access the resources, right? Who has access, who has authorization to use it. Okay, so this is about your actor, right? Who is going to do it, who is going to use it, who has right authorization to use it, kind of that. It is more focus on that, and that's what the name is, the role based. So based on your role, you get a kind of, and the third thing that is important is budget. And budget is how much, right? So when you combine the whole thing, when you start working on any migration of to cloud system, right? These are the three major things that is going to be discussed overall, and that is going to be, that is going to be kept in mind in general. Okay, so what your budget is? Your budget is about how much, it will cost, right? So these are the three things, right, which is important when we will talk about moving to a cloud-based system. Okay, so as we mentioned, policy is about that, what part of it. Okay, so let us come back to this point, right? So overall, one of the things that we discussed is that uh, policy is something that can be inherited down the hierarchy. So this is one of the important thing that you need to um, note here. Something, in whole curriculum, there are some of the things that is there to kind of understand overall, get an idea, and once you will do the hands-on, you will get more understanding on that, and we will do lot of it as part of um, AZ-104, and we will have hands-on projects, hands-on assignments overall. But in general, here we are talking about in general all the terms, so that we will be able to, once we will doing it again. And that's why I thought about this method and I follow this approach, is that w- after knowing the things overall, we will, if we will do hands on there itself, we will finish it. Okay, Azure policy done. In that case, you will not get chance to revise, you will not get chance to understand. Okay, so what we will do, that we will have an overview, we will have the kind of a top level thing, and that's what the part of architecture is. And then we will again drill down to the kind of lower level. So follow Azure policy evaluates resources and highlight resources that aren't compliant with policy that you have created. So it's related to compliance, as I mentioned, right? So um, and that's okay, prevent, remediate, and all those things, that's fine. Means these terms are kind of, you can associate easily. Let us move further on that. One of the things that I want to you to remember overall, number one, policy is what? Number one. Number two, it can be inherited. Okay, and then there are a lot of things. Definitely, if a policy, it is set of rules, and then related to compliance. If you are non-compliance, then you know your resources will be highlighted and so on and so forth. That's fine. Okay, let us erase it and let us move further. So what kind of policy, what are the examples of it, right? As for example, virtual machine limited to certain SKUs, so that is one thing. The product tag and value, so enforcing that your product has to be tagged, right? So your resources have to be tagged, otherwise you will not be able to provision the resources. So tagging, um, again the reasons, right? Certain locations where it's more closer to the location your work maybe. So these are the things you can set up, and then the policies related to that. Okay, so one of the terms that is important, again, compliance, and you have the resource evaluation and all. You evaluate the resources, what is compliant, what is not, what resources are following the rules or not, kind of that. Okay, what you will do if resources are non-compliant, especially again the headers that you need to know, understand properly. Okay, what this here, consider when to automatically remediate non-compliant resource, what we can do if the particular resource is non-compliant. Now again, this thing that I talked about, and this thing we need to understand, there is a difference between Azure RBAC and your policy. Okay, so when you say policy, again, it is related to what? Okay, so what you need to do to become compliant, so this is related to that, right? It is not related to who, and that's what I mentioned, and that's what I said, that when we have the diagram of it, and that's what I started on, that this is what this is important. So basically, when you are architecting, when you are designing, you need to have that kind of a keyword in your mind setup. Okay, and even in you are going to get mostly for AZ-305. I don't know you know the pattern or not. There is going to be around, they vary the questions 60 to 80, sometimes they vary the questions. Overall uh, it's around 60 normally they ask, and they ask three case studies. Each case study is going to have 4 to 5 questions. Okay, so they will give you scenarios and all that. Then there will be a kind of a regular question, kind of, one kind of you can say multiple, all will be multiple choice, kind of individual questions you can say, and that will come from the concepts overall, right? And then they will give some problem statement and all. One of the things that they will give you problem statement and they will give you solution. What is challenging here is again the problem solution will be that statement can be repeated with different solution. In the exam you cannot go back in those kind of questions, you cannot go back, okay, because you are going to get same questions. Okay, one of the interesting thing that I can relate here is Albert Einstein set up the same question for 3 consecutive years. So what happened that one of the uh, his colleague asked him that why you set up same question for 3 years. Okay, so what Albert Einstein said that yes, the questions are same, but during these years the answers became different for the same question. So that's what happens. People will try to question for AZ-305 is not going to be that confusing. Okay, it's going to be straightforward, but basic concept have to be very clear. And when we say basic concept, some kind of a you can say keywords, and that is important. So what I will tell you that when you are reading it, at least per page, not more than, don't write so many things and all that, but just kind of a keyword. Okay, policy, what, RBAC, okay, related to someone, some user, budget, it is about the amount and all that. So these keywords, keep that in mind and just note it down, whatever that, and that keyword will be different. The keyword that I use to understand the things may be different from you. Okay, and that's why you have that kind of habit, create that. That's what I said, that you spend 1 hour, find out 2 3 4 keywords, like key lines. Okay, this is what that will help me to remember the thing, this is what that will help me to keep in mind. Okay, so that is important. Okay, but anyway, we will during the course as well, we will talk about those keywords, we will talk to have from that perspective of that. But overall, yeah, so what is the difference? One is that compliance that depends on who made the changes. Who, it doesn't talk about who, and that's what again they said. Okay, and it says about what the resource has to do to remain compliant. So what means what for what means what for compliance. Okay, so this is what the case is. RBAC is user action, what user can do. No, not exactly what means users, what access the user has basically. Okay, what okay, so it is at the user level, who has this access, right, to that particular resource and all that. So what is important is, even if you have which has the upper hand, which has the upper hand, as for example there is a policy and there is a RBAC rule, you have the RBAC rule, but the policy restricts to use it, right, to complete an action on a non-compliant, the resource is non-compliant. So you have the needed role to access the resource, but that resource may be not tagged in a way, means for the for as per the rule it is mentioned that okay, the resource has to be tagged, like this tag has to be there. As for example, you are using a production resource, it has to be production server and it has to be tagged as production. You have access to the production server, but if it is not tagged as production, you will not be able to use it. So when we talk about policy and RBAC, policy has upper hand than your RBAC role. That is important. Again, when we talk about keyword, that is important. This is what the difference is. Is it clear, guys?
Yeah.
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 At
Yes,
any
Manoj.
point of time, if you face any problem in following, any problem in, I may be fast, I may be slow, you can just mention, okay, based on the audience, I have to plan accordingly. But yeah, at any point of time, if you face that, okay, no, let us go fast, let us go this way, we can chart out the way. That is the advantage we have when we are doing a personal session. Okay, so never hesitate to mention any kind of thing, because this happens, right, different ways. So never hesitate, never, if you have any question that is coming, just ping it. Maybe we can have discussion. So this is what we can say the bottom line is. Anyways, or at any point of time, if you are feeling bored, just mention it. Okay, we can have our, we can plan in a different way, maybe. Anyways, let us go. So you have so one of the thing that is important here, and this diagram is quite interesting, right? In general, in summary, if you will see this diagram, and this is what is important here is what is the default case. And even if any resource, if you want to use, the decision start with no access. Okay, so any evaluation that happens, as for example, you have your access to your Azure resource to a particular, from where it's you log into it. By default, what is the case? It's a no access. By default, it is no access. Means it will try everything that you are not going to have access on that. Maybe they have that kind of thing, right? Mostly exactly you should have the same user ID, password, everything, and from there it will it will begin, and then your assignments and everything that will come into picture. What is important here is it will start from no, it will start from denial always. Okay, so that is the key point when you have that uh, RBAC in mind. Okay, so this is important again when you talk about RBAC. And allow, madam, you are assigned a role. RBAC allows you to perform certain actions. Okay, so it's a kind of that, you have a role and it allows you. Okay, uh, as for example, what how to give this kind of a real world analogy on the RBAC. Anything that is coming to your mind in general, real world, and as for example, you say RBAC says that it is an allow model. Okay, in real world, or forget about Azure or not, in general, what comes in your mind when you say the allow model? RBAC is an allow model. What comes in your mind? Or how you can uh, say this thing? Role-based access control is an allow model. Now you have to tell the same thing in a different way, kind of. How you will tell it?
Means by default everything is denied, but you just say what are the things that particular user has access to. So you only have to say what he should be allowed to do. You don't have to say what he shouldn't be able to do.
Okay. Yeah. Uh, Forget about Azure for a while, because ultimately you have to connect things. Consider the case where in your organization, what you say, in your organization you go, okay, and there are multiple cubicles, okay, overall, right? So there is a HR cubicle, there is a finance cubicle. You go to your organization and they're not cubicle, there are different, you can say, rooms, and different room has different kind of, they are access controlled, right? They are access controlled. Now how you can represent that allow model, that how this goes basically. So there are HR, I don't know how this is in your organization. So in my organization there are different, kind of where a floor where HR sits, and there is access card, and for the organization in general, and there are different, finance department, there is
Yeah, same goes
IT.
here. Yeah. Same goes here as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So as for example, if you go to server room, can you enter to server room if you are not an IT guy, no IT
No.
admin guy, can you enter there? No.
No.
So they have, there is one access card for all, right? In that access card, you all the employee can access through the main gate, right?
Yeah.
Right. So this is an allow model that, okay, if you have permission, if you are an employee, you are allowed to enter the office premises, that's fine. Now you go to the HR, you have some HR work. Now again there is an access card, same access card, but maybe, in my case I cannot directly enter to HR. Maybe, they have the salary data and everything, so any, Tom, Dick and Harry cannot enter directly, right? So there is additional permission to them to allow them to enter within that premise, right? Within that, HR
Yeah.
section, right? They cannot enter. Similarly for that. So basically it talks about what you have. Do you have the right privilege to be allowed to use this thing, these resources? Do you have the right thing? So this is allow model, right? So it thinks about that okay, this is it. So that's why the term allow model, why I'm, especially when these kind of things comes in general, it is important to, relate it, right? Role based access, okay, relate it with some allow model so that you will remember, and that way may be different for in different cases. How you remember, that's okay, but this keyword again, RBAC is an allow model, this is important. Other things, okay, that's fine, you will read one time, you will, it's like that, you don't need to write a story based on that. It is that you are not going to get a descriptive kind of, write 10, 20 lines and all. You're not going to get that. You are going to get a scenario, you need to find out the right keyword, you need to say what keywords fit here, and then you need to decide based on that. That's it, you need to do. Second thing is assign at the highest scope level that meets the requirement. Your first define the role definition and related permission. So different levels, and as I said, it is going to be kind of in a hierarchy way, as yeah. So only grant user the access they need, this is very clear to that, and they have given some examples, okay, of different kind of things and also different permissions and all. This is what assigned roles to groups, not users, and this is important again. Now why groups and now why not a specific user? Can you give again an example from a perspective of a developer, not for in general concept of that you are a developer, maybe, Git, as for example, in anything that you are using or anywhere. Why why this thing is there? Assign role to group, not users. What is the reason behind it? Can someone explain this
Yeah.
particular thing?
Yeah. The developer or whoever, the user come and go. Yeah. So we can't track that who's coming there and who's leaving the thing. So if it is a part of the group, it will be easy, right? As soon as that the user has been removed from the group, they don't have access. So group has more control than users. That's what I
That's
understand.
correct. Exactly, you said the correct thing. Means user can come and go, it is very tough to manage, he can resign at any point of time. If you will managing at the user level, it is tough, and every time you need to, and then again it's like tough to manage. The user can shift from one group to another, and different things can happen on that. That's correct, and that's why even you check in your code to GitHub, different projects, you have different kind of roles, and same thing, you are part of different groups maybe, and based on that you have access.
Yeah.
So this is the best, that's why this is the reason why these are the best practices, right? When you say that okay, when you need to again design things to consider. So whenever they talk about things to consider, they talk about the best practices, and then from these kind of stuff your case studies comes into picture. Okay, this is the case, what you will do. Okay, so as for example, in an organization their employees are frequently leaving or something like that, what you will do. Azure in itself doesn't restricts you anything. You need to say these things. That's important here, because you may have different kind of role. Okay, fine. This is all important thing that we wanted to discuss. Now the next thing is the blueprint. What blueprint is basically, right? Again, kind of can you give an again from programming terms, okay, can you give a kind of a example that what blueprint can be and what is the use of it?
Blueprints saves time to do
Means
the
what it
repetitive
is,
task.
what it is basically, what it can be, means how when you read this word blueprint, what comes into your mind?
It's like those
Uh,
objects in object-oriented
Classes,
programming. You can classes,
object
yeah.
and classes, right? And you define a class one time, and then you can create a
You
number of objects from the class, right, which has the same properties and everything. So it's just a matter of defining those objects, right? And done, right? Similarly, you define your rules one time organization wide, and then for different projects or different units you cascade the rule. So just you need to create a kind of out of that blueprint, right? You can cascade across, you can scale up across the organization, governance practices and all. As an architect, you need to, you have to work on the blueprint. What can be the blueprint that is going to be cascaded across the organizations? What is going to be the structure of it and all this stuff? So this is important. So they will talk about template, the arm template, artifacts and all that. So with that, when you in Azure DevOps, when you create a pipeline again, you have a kind of, you can say, um, a blueprint of pipeline even, and then the same pipeline, and because of the compliance purpose and all that, all the pipeline will you will use a kind of that blueprint, and means can be reused across. So this is again a kind of a concept that is that fits into this concept of having using a blueprint overall. So when you have to again, when you have to talk about the difference again between blueprint and policy. Blueprint, you can say, is a superset of that policy basically, one thing. And I can say the policy is a real world entity. Blueprint is not. So you need, as for example, think in terms of, uh, you have image, Docker. Have you guys done Docker? You might have, right?
yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, yep.
Yeah. So you have in Docker, you create an image, right? And then you have a container there, right? And that's a kind of a running instance of that image, right? So from that image you build a container, right? And it's a kind of running entity.
To watch our complete session, enroll for our premium membership. Click onto the join button and enroll yourself with the best suited option.
So in that image, when you have a content in that Docker image, you have different you can say prerequisite that has to be there, and with that prerequisite, a container is built, right? So as for example, you want to run uh say Java applications, so you need Java, say Java version say 11, it is running on that maybe. You need Maven. So you need, say as for example, these two you need for to have that application up and running. That is a prerequisite, and then definitely that application code and all, right? The war file that is there. So policy is one of those. Similarly, when you are creating a blueprint, policy is one of the input to it. It's a kind of one of the input that, so blueprint will include the policies. Okay. So you in blueprint, if you want to make sure the compliance measure and all, so you include those policies within blueprint. Inside policy, blueprint will not be there. Inside blueprint, the policy will be there. So that is the key difference when we will talk about that. So it is like that. This is now, let us come back to the point where we will know and understand that where we are exactly. So the last part of the knowledge check, I want you guys to just honestly try this knowledge check question now, honestly. Okay, so
I've
independently
already
try.
actually tried it before.
Okay, you have done it.
Just now before
Okay,
starting the course, yeah.
and
Got
you
it.
have done
Like,
all correct or what?
I did all correct.
Great. Okay, so this is Raj, right? I haven't
No,
seen
this
you.
No,
is
no, Jitendra.
Jitendra.
Jitendra. Okay, Raj, can you try?
Yeah.
Just take your time, take 3-4 minutes. Jitendra, you can take a kind of a quick water break, maybe.
Sure.
Okay, so basically at top level, right, what is the thing that where we are talking about access controls and all. This is a kind of thing, and this is your Azure Active Directory. So it's mostly related to accesses. Okay, not only specific to Azure resources and all. So basically, if and there are, what are the different ways through which you can access the resources. As for example, you want to access LDAP way of that, right? So that is the part of Active Directory. Similarly, your accounts, your mail ID and all, what are the different ways of accessing the Azure resource are the part of the Active Directory in general. Okay, so this is what it is. And as for example, now when you say there is another kind of, you have as for example in our case, there are vendors who are there, right, and they want to have some level of access to our resources. Let us take an example. When we were migrating to Azure in general, there were Microsoft guys who were supporting us. Okay, so those were basically vendor, and obviously even if they are Microsoft guys, they are there to support us overall to for the migration, especially related to Azure DevOps and all, right? For the with the code and all the support. But he didn't have access directly to all the resources and all, and I shouldn't have, because he's out of the organization basically. Now this kind of case, is called, again, this is an active directory of that organization basically. And then both these active directories are kind of, connected like this. Okay, so basically this kind of connection is called B2B, right? And what means, with from this active directory, this user, he has privilege for this active directory, Azure Active Directory. Using these privileges, he is going here. Okay, and then whatever active directories which are provisioned here, the users of which will get some kind of rule. Mostly it is guest rule, guest account. So this kind of thing is called B2B. B2B. When you have your vendor and you are kind of giving them access to your resources basically for some purposes. As I given you example, right? There were a team from Microsoft and they were helping us in setting up the Azure DevOps pipeline and all, the helping on the solution and all. And that guy needed some access to that. How he will get it? So he is not going to be the part of our Active Directory directly. Okay, so through the Azure Active Directory of that, uh, you can say, organization, he's going to have that kind of thing is called um, B2B. Okay, now what is the next thing? What is, as for example, you developed a solution, you develop an application, any, maybe say insurance solution, you are working on insurance domain, anywhere you developed a solution and you want the access to that application to users. So you develop an application basically, not this is not this is AAD. Okay, and then here is the application. Now with the and you are promoting that application, you have that application, so you are the promoting that application to a kind of, you can say, UAT users, a set of users, kind of end users, and you want to give them, you want to give them access to a set of users who is out of organization, who is not a business in itself. So so how they will access this? So they have their Instagram accounts. This. Just I'm using some text. So they have some Instagram accounts, maybe, you are promoting throughout. Then WhatsApp, not WhatsApp, uh, Facebook, Twitter. So with that account totally external to that, and then for that sake of particular giving access to that, you open up to the end user and you give them a kind of access for trial or something, right? Kind of a UAT, end user, beta testing, you can say. So how you do that again? So you give them permission at Active Directory level for that particular application in its application to access it. So you limit it, and it is a directly, it's a customer, right? So this kind of thing is called B2C. Okay, so when you talk about this, one is internal, your internal are back within the organization, you have roles. Apart from that, there is going to be B2B, there is going to be B2C. Okay, so let us see here again. Let us come back to where I was using.
Along with that, you can access our other tutorials such as Docker, Ansible, Jenkins, Terraform, Splunk, AWS, Azure, and various other DevOps related premium tutorials with our channel membership. If you would have any issues with our channel membership, you can drop an email to us at contact@devopschool.com, or you can also unsubscribe from channel membership anytime if you don't want to continue or did not like the video. To get our channel membership, click onto the join button, select the $399 plan and grow your skills immensely. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries. We will reply to them at the earliest. Thanks for watching.